All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Within Tolerance. This is episode 25, and we're going to just jump right into things. There's a couple interesting things. First of all, next week we have Andrew Henry from Henry Holsters coming on, and Dylan and I are both super excited to have him on. I've been following him for quite a while. I don't know about you, Dylan, but he's got some cool stuff going on.
Yeah, I was following him. So I met him IMCS 2018, and we hung out a little bit. But I think I'd been following him since before that, even. So it's always interesting to see all the stuff he does is like such way out of like what I would do as far as materials. He's doing a lot of kydex and holster trimming and things like that on a Speedio, and it's just stuff that I would not that I would never do. Like if somebody paid me, sure, but like it's not work that we've ever done and that we are going after or anything like that. So it'd be really interesting to see how he's grown that business and how he got into it and all that.
Yeah, I'm going to save my questions here, but I'm really curious to see kind of what he does because I kind of get what he does, but I'm not fully in tune with it. So I got a lot of questions for him.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So everybody, depending on when we post this episode, if there's still time, go ahead and drop your questions on our Instagram post or DM us, and we'll make sure to ask Andrew them.
Yeah, we're pre-recording a couple of these episodes here. This one, and then Andrew's is going to be a little bit earlier because otherwise it'd be on like what was it, Christmas Eve. So we're kind of moving things around. So definitely submit questions as fast as possible. But one thing, I got a package, and it says, "Do not open until your next podcast. Dylan will receive a package too." I was not aware of this. Dylan was not aware of this, and then the return address is my address. So and then it says it's a 1-day package, like priority mail, and then it's AL friend. I don't know if this is a joke, like an old friend or a long friend. I don't know what that means, but I'm impatient and I want to know what's in this because that's some sneaky stuff right there. So we're opening it live here. Okay, it is indeed. Ooh, it's a hoodie. Oh, no way, Dylan. This is
Where
you're gonna be jealous of this one.
really?
Oh, okay. Let me hold up before I say. What's the note say? Um, let's see. Merry Christmas. Congrats on the podcast. It's a Within Tolerance hoodie. It's literally got the logo on it.
What?
Yeah, I gotta send you a picture of this.
So
This
just
is
for our listeners, so they know, I think mine was sent to my shop, and I didn't pick up the mail yesterday. Apparently, like an idiot. So I don't have the same package Peyton does, but I'm sure I will tomorrow.
this is really comfy too. I just sent you a picture.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
This is just getting me excited because um what was it? Our kind of goal was 1,000 followers, then we might start doing t-shirts.
Yeah, and we're pretty close if I remember right. We're right around the
Like
corner from that. Yeah, we're
yeah,
eight
like
eight
8.
forty two right now. So
Okay.
we're right on the corner from doing our own stuff like this. Oh my goodness, yeah, I just got your picture. That is so cool. That is
Yeah, this
awesome.
is awesome.
Wow. Does the note say who?
Nope.
Wow. Well, whoever did this, you guys are fantastic, and thank you so much. That
Yeah,
is
seriously, that's some sneaky stuff.
that is amazing. Yeah.
All
Wow.
right. So moving on from that kind of weird little gem. So Dylan has a fully operating brother. He's been sending me some videos of it being a speed demon, and I know he's probably been using that machine a lot. And I know we talked off air a little bit last week, and you're kind of dragging the heels if you have to use the Kitamura.
Yeah. So fortunately or unfortunately, I've been using the Kitty quite a bit actually, but not as. It's definitely not my go-to. But we've had a lot of plate work, which we're going to talk about later. Larger stuff that I do on our subplate, and right now I don't have a subplate for the brother, but the brother's just been fantastic. I've done 2 or 3 jobs now that they haven't been repeat work, like they're not the exact same part number, but they've been close enough that it's the same tools and the same same programming. Like I just copied and pasted the tool paths, and one of them, actually, I guess there's 3 close to repeat jobs. One of them, the cycle time went down from probably 6.5 minutes with the palette changes to about 3 minutes.
Jeez.
And then another one I think was also half. I think everything has been at least 50% less time, so like 200% quicker. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, it's insane, and like the accuracies went up because we've been able to throw in process probing straight out of Fusion, and that's been super easy to use. You just pretty much click where you want it to probe, tell it if you want to probe the model or the stock, and you're off. So like I haven't had to use work stops as much because I can just use like a scale and stick my part out a half inch from the jaws or a half inch in from the jaws and then just probe like for X or something like that. And that's been fantastic. Today, I sent you that video. I did tool breakage detection for the first time, which is just insanely fast. If the video takes, I don't know, 2 seconds to tool breakage detection, and that was actually slowed down a little bit from the stock program. The stock program feeds the tool into the because the way it works is that it goes over, Z0, moves over to the tool probe, and then goes down to 100 thou above it, and then feeds onto it 50 thou deep, and then it does an M120, which just checks if there's a signal or not, and then goes home and starts doing whatever else it's doing. And the first feed down to negative 50 thou was like 150 inches a minute, and I was doing it with tiny tools and was like, I don't want to deal with that. So I,
Yeah.
I even slowed it down to like 15 inches a minute, so it would even be quicker. Not that I need it. I mean, you saw the video. It's already stupid quick and more than I need. So that's great. Like I'm really happy to get that all checked out and taken care of. And yeah, man, it's just insane. Like our qualities went up. Everything coming off of there is just shiny and perfect, and yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. My only regret so far is that we didn't do this sooner. Really.
So, is there any issues you've been having with the post from Fusion, or are you pretty much good to go?
There are some things I want to change. The post from Fusion, like the code works perfectly, but for example, the brother control, you can't search to a tool and start from a tool. You have to search to an N number and start from the N number. And right now, you either have to put out N numbers on every single line or not at all in Fusion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change that. I had them change it at work too for our M140 post, where it just posts out the tool number. Like let's say you have tool 5, it would be N5 right before it. So it
Okay.
only posts out N numbers at the tool changes, and they match the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and plug all that logic in there. There's a few other things I want to do personally, like the the stock post does not retract the tool after every tool because G100, which is the nonstop tool change code, retracts the tool, changes tools, and positions to the next location. But like if I'm trying to check a hole that I just cut, it makes it really hard. Like I've got to put it in manual mode and jog everything, everywhere. So I might have it. I think I'm going to have like, in the user parameter box when you're posting, like there's all the
Mm-hmm.
little choices you can make. I'm going to have one where it'll put out a Z home and then an X and Y back to the operator location, but all under block skip. So I can post that out. And then once I'm done proving out the program, just turn on block skip, and it'll just act like a normal program. But then when I have it off, it'll come back home and I can check whatever I need to and rerun tools and all that.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So besides those two changes, really, it just like the code out of Fusion works great. All the probing stuff works great. Yeah, it's pretty flawless at this point.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that the whole process worked out. I mean, what? Because it's almost been, what, 2 weeks, kind of, maybe three, since you got it?
Yeah, I think we got it on the 26th or 27th, something like that. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been a little over 2 weeks, and
So,
yeah,
I
we're
mean, you're
up and
going to
running.
be
And
up on a month already coming up, and it's just going to be, that's just crazy.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, it's man, it is killer. Yeah, like I said, the only regret I have is that we didn't get it sooner. It fits everything that we've wanted to do. Like we've done a lot of 3D work prepping for our Christmas ornaments that are gonna be late.
I was about to say.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but really, it's just been nonstop work in the machine. Like on one hand, I feel bad because I wanted to get them done, and on the other hand, it's like I can't feel too bad because it's not like we've just sat on the new machine. Like we've been running it pretty much nonstop since we got it, making parts. So
And it's not like you're obligated to make these.
no, and honestly, I think we're just gonna make them and just ship them late if we have to. Like
Yeah.
I'm hoping I should finish what's currently on the machine tomorrow, and then I'm hoping to set up op one and op two because I've got two vices on the Brother right now, side by side, and maybe run them through Tuesday. And then I've got parts due Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
So I should be able to knock those out midweek and maybe get them shipped by Wednesday or Thursday. So
How many of
some
those are you gonna make?
35 blanks is what we have right now, I think.
Okay.
So we've got our list and all that. I don't know if we're going to do a giveaway this year because I don't know if we're going to have any extra, but we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Uh,
what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was gonna say I know we talk about this a lot off air, but I wanted to mention it on air. Is like this is why I love our podcast because like you go back because what we've been doing this for 25 weeks now. That's like getting close to what? That's almost half a year.
yeah,
Um,
our next episode will be exactly half a year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's crazy to look back at episode 1 where like you weren't even considering a new machine. Like that wasn't even in the question. And now we're here. Like it's just so cool because like we're on a small scale and it's cool to see, and I know a lot of people listening are in similar spots, and I just think it's really cool that they can kind of follow along a process of like, okay, you've gone from one machine or 1 to 2, now like let's step it up because I know a lot of people listening have older used equipment, that they got and that's all they could afford at the time, but maybe they're getting to that point where they can upgrade and buy something new with warranty and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, like I can't say that like get taking a loan out is the right move for everybody, but at least at this point, like it's going to allow us to make more parts faster, better quality. If we have to fight with costs to get a larger run of something, like I feel more comfortable now really looking into cycle times and all that. Like it is insane how much quicker everything is with this machine. Like it's really is just insane. Like and having the high torque spindle, like so fusion, I haven't changed all of my defaults for like step over for adaptive clearing in fusion. I have on, I think 2D or maybe 3D. Anyway, one of them I had posted out and forgotten to change. Like it was a 3/8, and usually on the kitty I would run that at like a 75 or 100 thou step over, and it
Okay.
defaults to 150 thou step over. And like I just ran it, not even thinking about it, and like I was like, huh, that sounds a little louder. And then I looked into the code and I was like, oh, that is 50% more than I normally would take with that tool. And it just was like, I don't know, 20% spindle load or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't care.
No, it's zero care. Like at this point, it really is work holding and tool holding that is like the limiting factor. Like that spindle has a ton of power, and I really can't wait to start pushing that thing more and more. Like I want to get a dual contact shrink fit holder pretty soon here.
I was just about to say, yeah, shrink fit would be really cool.
Yeah. I've got it two half-inch illuminators, but I might get a 3/8 because I think 3/8 is kind of better suited for a 30 taper, and
Yeah,
really put those in a shrink fit and really go to town,
that's
see
gonna
what
be
comes
so
out.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, and then on top of it, I mean, we talked about this after last week's episode a little bit, but so I found out pricing on that subplate, the one from Orange, along with a few Delta vices and a few more of the Delta subplates. So like there's an aluminum subplate that'll go on the Brother table the entire travel. Then there's the little square subplates that have Orange's 0 point system built into them, and then the Delta vices that use that 0 point. And then from what I understand, the same holes in the bottom of the Orange that accept the ball receivers that they usually use also accept the pull studs,
Okay.
and so we can mount our 6-inch vices also on these um, subplates. So we have a price now for the whole package. I'm just waiting on a drawing for the subplate itself, just to make sure that everything looks good, and then we're gonna sign off and buy it. I think it's like a 3-week lead time on the subplate, and then everything else is in stock. So
So does Orange custom make those subplates to order?
Yeah, maybe it seems like it.
Okay.
Like I would assume because it's a 3 week lead time. Like I know it's made for the S700. Like everything that I like the model I got from them says S700 in it. All of that stuff. I know that they're slowly starting to make machine specific subplates for all of this stuff. So it's still like 100 pound aluminum subplate. So I imagine it's fairly thick too,
Yeah.
which will be great.
The
But then
reason
we'll
I ask is because I know you had mentioned that you were getting that through a distributor, right?
yeah, we ended up going through Yamazon just because Clarence, our guy from Yamazon's a really good guy, and he got us a really good price on it, and was able to package all that stuff together. So
Yeah, might as well continue to build that relationship.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he's not charging us any more than we would from Orange, and like I'm more than happy to give him the business because, like I said, he's a really good guy. I've met him before, and he's always helped us out. So yeah, it all works out. And yeah, as soon as I get a drawing, we're gonna place the order, and that should be in fairly quickly. I mean, those parts that I sent you today that we're running, they're 15 inches long and like an inch and a half, inch and three quarters wide.
Yeah.
Like those would have been perfect for two deltas set up next to each other. Like I had to put the orange that was in the other brother onto the Speedio so that I could hold the entire length of them because they're an extrusion that I'm just cutting features in.
Yeah, so with that part, yeah, if you just had two deltas set up, that would just be perfect.
Yeah, it would have been more than enough, and it would have been once I have that 0 point system, moving things around like that'll be heaps easier. I mean, not that tramming in a vise is exceptionally hard, but once I have that model in Fusion and I can just drag it into new parts and do that whole container thing that we've kind of been talking about and I've just been harping on, I think that's really where I'm going to save so much time, especially on first stops, because we're going to get two deltas and then we're going to have one of our 6 inch vices in there. And so I'll be able to do up to, 3 or 4 first stops at a time. And I should, once I have all the locations in Fusion and we're going to have Sarah Jaws and all of them, I should be able to just line my stock up with like, the 1 inch mark in Fusion and in real life and just probing directly out of Fusion and like never find
Oh,
G54 or like G54 will be one of the 0 points on the subplate, something
yeah.
like that. And so I'll never have to, at least for op ones or like, soft jaws or anything like that. Like the idea is to have to manually probe or manually find my work origin as little as possible. Like hopefully
Yep.
never, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and you might just come into situations where you want to double check manually and
Yeah. Well, and like the other thing that we want to do is I'm going to like since we've been doing so much plate work, I'm going to make another sub plate that has four of the um, 0 point pull studs in it, and I'll just be able to pull off all the deltas and my vise and just plop that down on four of the subplate things and lock it down, and then be able to do plate work too. And like that'll take care of any Z travel issues I have with the brother, and I'll be able to do all my plate work stuff really easily.
so with the subplate, I haven't looked too much on their website, but so subplate goes on the table and then it's got those like 0 point holes. And is that for Orange's ball locks?
No, so the subplate goes down. The subplate you can see on their website is for the ball locks. This is one that's not on their website yet.
Okay.
And it's got the pattern for the bottom of the Delta subplates, which are little square things
I've
that
seen
have the
those.
yeah. So those bolt and pin. They use two of the half-inch pins that are in the orange. They use two of those to locate, and then four 5/16 screws, I think, to hold them down. And so
So
you
it's
put
so
those
I was
where, yeah, go for it.
Oh, I was just trying to figure out because I was looking at their website with those little plates. So that whole plate like permanently mounts. I mean, not permanently, but it locks down to the subplate. It's not like because I keep picturing like a fifth axis plate where you turn an Allen key and the studs like come out with the vise.
That's pretty much what that little thing does.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so that's the equivalent of the fifth axis base.
So the subplate goes on the table, then these little plates permanently mount to the subplate, and then that's like your mini little ball lock system.
Correct. Yeah. So I'll have
Okay.
10 locations for those mini subplates or 0 point systems, I guess is the better way to call them. I'll have 10 locations for those 0 point systems to locate. Two of them, I think, are out of the travel range so that I can
Okay.
mount a fourth axis on them if I want to in the future. And I think one of them I will be using to mount our tool setter to.
Okay. So like the far back left.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I can take a picture of the model I have and send it to you so you can see what I'm talking about.
So then is it like two of the little subplates per vise or something like that?
It's one per Delta vise and then two of them per like 6-inch vise.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why you don't need because like the Deltas have pins also plus the single center pull stud that locate them. But when you're using two of the pull studs, from what I understand, you don't need the pins because the two of them locate. You know, they they clock and they secure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what should be happening. I mean, we'll see. I'm waiting on that drawing. Like I said, I want to see. I want to see where they envisioned the travel on this thing, and I want to make sure that I have something that's it's held to and that I can refer back to.
So
Um,
then you're basically just you're okay with the price and everything, and you're just waiting to double check some last things, and then it's pull the trigger.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the model looked great to me. Like I said, I just want something that I can refer back to that they're held to. Because whenever you buy something like that, they always ask you to like sign off and to buy it. Like, oh, I approve this drawing, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not like I don't want to approve a untolerance 3D model. Like it just makes more sense to me to have them draw it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be good.
And like maybe that's me being picky, but you know.
No, I would do the same thing. But then again, we could both just be picky.
Right. But I think it's worth it on my end. So yeah, that's really all I'm waiting for though. This should be great.
So probably get that late January, maybe.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they get the drawing to clearance this week because I know Yamazin's closed the 20th through the end of the year.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I don't get it done this week, it's not going to happen, and it won't be here until the end of January, something like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I wouldn't imagine that it's going to be a big deal or anything like that. And yeah, that's and so that kind of leads me into that other topic that I put up there, which was plate work, because that's another big thing for us. We do a lot of large, like the part that I'm going to be doing this week is 3/4 inch thick, 11 inches by 17 inches. And so like you're not going to hold that in a vise. You're going to have to come up with some way. And so we've got this subplate on the kitty that's more or less just I want to say it's like an inch and a half or an inch and a quarter piece of mic 6 that we faced both sides and then counterboard and drilled through for half 13
Okay.
and just mounted it straight to one of the pallets. And so you had asked me, like, you had some 12 by 12 by, I can't remember, like a 1/4 inch or something like that pieces that you were trying to do.
Yep. Yep.
And so, like, my methodology on those is I usually, depending on how the part looks, if the part has holes through that I can use, I'll drill them undersized for like 1/4 inch dowels, 2 1/4 inch dowels, and then four of them be like 1/4 20 clearance holes with like counter bores.
Okay.
And so that way, and then I have matching holes on my subplate. Like I'll drill and tap and helically interpolate holes for the dowel pins. And so that way I can hold the plate down initially with just some toe clamps. And then I cut those counter board holes and then I put my 1/4 20s through that and hold it down. And I always spec them out so that they're subsurface. So then I can go in and just face the entire thing to half of thickness. If I've
Yep.
got like the part that I'm doing this week ends up being 700. So I'll take 25 thou off the first side. I'll then do any of the features I need to do, contour it, drill and tap any of the other holes I need to do, And then when I flip it onto those dowel pin locations, so it's exactly lined up with my first stop. I keep the tolerance real tight on those dowel pins, and then I bolt through the holes that I've already drilled, and then I either use toe clamps on the outside if I've got extra material, or I make another set of counter bores, and then I hold it down, face it, walk my way around it if I need to again, do any backside features, and then you're done more or less. And then I'll use toe clamps again, and then I'll drill or ream or tap or whatever the holes that I was initially using to whatever size they are on the model. And if there's no holes I can use on the model, I'll actually buy stock that's maybe half an inch aside, bigger in X, and put all of those locating features and hold downs outside of the part model. And then when I flip it, the second side, I'll hold in Y front and back with 4 toe clamps and just cut off the left and the right side where all those locating features were. And
Okay.
then you're done. I mean, it makes it really, really easy. 2 ops for the most part. And we've been doing a surprising amount of work like this recently. Like, we usually haven't done a whole lot of it, but like, it seems like a bunch of our customers need tooling plates and things like that made, so we've been doing a lot of it.
Are you holding any tight tolerances on like thickness of the plate?
Yeah, I mean, plus or minus 2 on a lot of them, plus or minus 1.
Oh wow. So is there any, I'm just trying to think of any potential issues. Is there any tricks or problems? I mean, I guess let's say you have an inch plate and you need it to be like 950 plus or minus 1 or something. Like you said, just take like half, 25 off. Um and then
So
on the
all
other,
of my Z origins are off the plate. I never move it to the top of the stock or anything like that.
yeah, do the
And
bottom.
so in Fusion or whatever cam you're using, on the first, like, I also model my stock when I'm doing this stuff so that I know that it's centered on the model. I know where my hold down holes are, all that stuff. And then so my first op, the setup for that op, the Z0 would be on the plate. So the bottom of stock. And then in the second op, it would be the bottom of the model because now that top is faced.
So do you
And
just go for it, or will you take on that second side, like, half the actual cut depth and somehow measure it and then, adjust accordingly?
yeah, that's actually what I just did this last
Okay.
week is I just went plus 5 thou stock because, like, I know I'm usually within a thou or so just off of the subplate because I'm zeroed there. I don't move it. The part's held down really tight, like it's not moving. But like, I left 5 thou, I pulled it off, and since I have those dowel pins, I can relocate it without any worry.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I pulled it off, mic'd it. I think I had to comp my G54 like 7/10 or something like that. Put it back
Okay.
on, faced the rest of it, and it was golden. You know,
Okay.
yeah. And so I've done a few parts like that. Like, I had a tooling plate that had clearance holes for a different set of screws that weren't quarter 20, and I just drilled and tapped those in my subplate. The only problem is now my subplate's starting to look like Swiss cheese.
I was
But
about to say it's probably a sacrificial looking plate.
yeah. And so the nice thing about the one that I want to do for the brother is that it's going to locate into those 0 point systems with 4 pull studs, and then I'll just be able to do all my normal stuff with it. And I'll probably, when I make it, I might just make 2, and that way when it starts looking like Swiss cheese, I'll just toss it and start on the next one.
Might as well while you have it set up.
Yeah, and it works great. I mean, it really is fantastic. So next time you have plate work, yeah, it's not a, if you have to do a whole bunch of them, like, that might be the wrong way to do it. Like, maybe you need some giant vacuum plate, or I don't know. But most of this stuff is like 1, maybe 2 parts, and like, it hasn't let me down so far. Like, it always locates, as long as I keep those dowel pin holes really tight tolerance so that like my pin barely goes in. It works, every time so far.
Okay. I
And
just
like,
got your
I've
picture of the subplate, by the way. That makes a lot more sense now.
yeah, and once I get it, I'll post a bunch on Instagram about it so that everybody can see it. But I think it's going to be a really, really, really nice option for our work holding and just make everything easier.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you. So the pull studs that go into those, how much are those?
They're like $30.
Okay, I thought they'd be crazy expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about it, and then I went back in Orange's Instagram, and at one point he commented like that they're only going to be $30, and it's so that you can you can take a piece of stock that's whatever the size of these little 0 point systems. Hold on, I'm measuring it right now. They're like 5.5 inches square,
That's
so you can.
probably some Lang dimension, maybe.
Well, no, because his is a single 0 point. Where Lang and fifth axis are 96 millimeter between pull studs.
Oh, the okay.
Yeah, but it's cheap enough where you can buy these pull studs, buy 3 or 4 of them, and like every time I want a new fixture with like Mighty Bites or something, I can just take a 5.5 square piece of stock, drill and tap for the giant, or I guess drill and thread mill probably for the pull stud, and then helically bore for the pins, and there's my fixture. There's my fixture base.
Yeah, that's actually really slick because you could have a bunch of little mini fixtures going on, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the plan. Like it, so far with the vices I currently have, it makes the most sense. I think. Like
yeah,
if I was gonna go fifth axis or something like that, I would have to completely change over to their vices. Whereas this one lets me use my 6 inch vices. It lets me use a lot of the things I've already invested in, which is great.
yeah. I'm really curious to see how you like that system. I think you're gonna love it, especially with because you're probably just gonna do like you said, just create like a master file in Fusion with that, and probably a couple other things, and you can just start. Every time you get a new part, just save as and just go for it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and I should just be able to drag. I guess it'll be my container program. I'll drag new parts into my container program template and then save out as a new file every time. It's probably
Okay.
what'll end up happening. So I'll right now I don't have the provisions for it in my Fusion file system. Like I haven't created, but I'll have probably I'll add model folders to every one of my customer folders and just keep my models in there and then drag them into part files and save them in the general directory.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but I'll keep everybody updated. I think it should be fun and all that stuff. So, what about you? What's been going on? It looks like you've been running your machine a whole bunch up until 1, 2 a.m. the last couple nights.
I actually started it then because I was up pretty late.
Oh, jeez.
um, but yeah, I've been running. Let's see, this whole weekend. There's a couple like the way I organize Fusion is I have like my customer folders, then I have my own folders, and in like the first folder of everything, there's like a bunch of models of just like ideas I have, just like parts that need molds made, and like kind of just a bunch of stuff. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to like a lot of those things I've had for a while, and I'm trying to like get some of those done before the end of the year and just like get them out of my way. And so I'm just kind of doubling down, and I've been running probably for the past, oh boy, probably close to 50 or 60 hours straight of running molds,
Jeez.
which isn't many molds. I mean, that's like 3 molds, but that's 6 halves. So you figure 6 to 10 hours per half. So, and then I'm probably gonna be quiet tonight because I gotta design a couple more. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really getting to the point where I'm thinking more about like you said that mold palette idea. I think that'd be pretty cool. Um, and then there's a couple things that I want to change about like my default programs. And I posted about this on my story about the G187 P value that I'm trying to figure out. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had time to look at it, but a lot of people hit me up about that. And I think the consensus is that it is based. So for those that don't know, I don't know if this is just a Haas thing or not. I
Yeah,
don't
it's just
know.
us.
Okay. Yeah, so G187 and then there's a P value. And so for my knowledge, in my control, I have two settings. I think it's setting 85 and 191. So one of those is saying what like do you want it to be in rough, middle, or fine, like I guess resolution would be the right word. And then the other setting is like what is your corner radius? Like your minimum corner radius, and default it's 20 thou, I think. And I don't know if these two settings are connected. I just kind of figured they were. But I drop my setting for mold work down to 5/10 corner radius. And I always make sure it's at P3, which is like the fine setting. And Fusion, because all of these mold settings are, or let's see, yeah, in Fusion, all of these tool paths are, I think, scallop. There's a couple of adaptives, but mainly scallops and whatnot. And so I'm having to go in there manually with the code and do like the Control F, find all the G187s. If they're not a P3, if they're a P1 or 2, I got to change it, which isn't a big deal. Like, I mean, it takes less than 30 seconds, but like, I'm trying to get to the point where I can just like click, post, run. And this is just one of those tiny, tiny hiccups that if I can get that fixed, then I'm going to be smooth sailing for the most part.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I can't remember. Obviously I don't have a Haas, so I haven't looked into it, but I want to say that the Haas post outputs P1 for roughing only.
Okay.
Like I think it knows that you're using an adaptive and puts out P1 because otherwise it's going to like bog hardcore with, or at least when you're like ramping up the feed rate and all that stuff.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
But then you got to leave enough stock from your adaptives that it's not going to overrun those values. And I think that those are what those parameters are talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like because it pretty much G187 lets you tell the control what to prioritize, whether it's accuracy or speed.
Yep.
And so, like, P3 is going to make sure that it gets to every single point at the detriment of speed, whereas P1 is going to make sure that it hits that speed as quickly as it can, but it might overrun and it might do that corner radius value.
And
Um,
what's weird is, honestly, I forget sometimes to change those settings back when I'm doing mold work versus just like generic parts. And honestly, the times don't really spike that much as far as
really?
difference. Yeah, I was really shocked. And honestly, while back when I was testing out those air turbines and I had figured this out, the time actually, I mean, this wasn't just because of the air turbine, but on a specific tool path, I bumped up to like fine settings. And honestly, if I remember correctly, time actually went down by like a minute.
Really?
So
That's bizarre.
yeah, I don't know. I need to play with it a little bit more. And honestly, I have a really good process for my mold tool paths. I have like a template. I just go for it. But I feel like I could get them faster. And the one smallest tool, the finishing tool, like I've talked about, is a 1/64th ball that's 1/8 inch length of cut. And I think I currently do 4 inches a minute. And honestly, I probably broke three of those in the past year, but those were all three within probably a week of testing.
Oh,
And
jeez.
the one that I have now, I haven't broken, and it's probably been close to 8 months.
Okay. Oh,
So,
so I just looked it up. So G187, you can actually, if you use P whatever and then an E value, you can actually override temporarily whatever your setting 85 is. So that sets the max corner rate rounding value.
wait, say that again?
So if you do G187 P 1, 2, or 3,
Yep.
and then E, and then whatever the value of the corner rounding you want, so in 5/10 in your case, that will override your setting 85.
So that's only if I wanted to override that setting 85, though.
Right. So I'm saying you could leave it at like a normal value and then
Oh,
override it for
okay.
your molds as, E 5/10. And then it says setting 191 sets the default smoothness to the user specified rough, medium, or finish when G187 is not active.
Oh, when it's not active.
Yeah. So it doesn't affect it at all when you have G187 on.
Oh, so that setting basically doesn't really affect what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it
Interesting.
seems like. And it says note changing setting 85 to a low value may make the machine operate as if it's in exact stop mode, which I think is where it does a lot of calculating to make sure that it's at the exact place that it's supposed to be, which can it makes it more accurate but can have it jittery, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the Haas control handles exact stop mode, but I've seen that in Vanek stuff
Okay, that's
or Finook
interesting.
or whatever.
Yeah, so I'll have to play with that a little bit more, but I'm quite shocked and I appreciate everyone reaching out. And I mean, some people were like, hey, I'm running into the same issue. Did you figure it out? So I'm hoping that once I get it nailed, I'll talk about it more. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I like I said, I don't have a Haas, but I'm more than happy to help you out playing around with it too. I've actually got to start. I've got something similar to G187 in the Brother control that I want to start playing with. There's A and B mode high speed codes, and like there's a bunch of different settings for them and stuff. But as of yet, I haven't been running fast enough to really, you know, encounter issues with them. But I'd like to start playing with them so I could finish faster.
yeah.
So
So yeah, I'm hoping, I'm trying to the way I look at it is I've gotten the mold process pretty much down. Like I can get good molds that make and produce good parts. And now I'm trying to think, okay, how can I speed this up? And I think the palette idea is great. And then I also want to look more in depth about my tool paths because there was a point where I didn't know this was way back, and I'm totally, fine with admitting this. And this is why I like this podcast because, you know, what's the right word? Newsflash, I'm not a perfect machinist, but like I didn't know what rest machining was. Like I understood what it was, but I didn't know how to do it in Fusion, as dumb as that sounds. And Nick at Full Throttle um, looked at my template and I was like, because I told him, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm cutting a lot of air. And he's like, yeah, you are. And so, I mean, that saved a lot of time. So I'm just trying to make sure maybe I'm might be missing just one of those dumb little moments like that could save me, an hour per mold or something. I just want to kind of revise that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, throw it in the share folder that we have, and I'll take a look too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth looking at. So,
So since I mentioned it, I looked it up real quick. But exact stop mode is pretty much the same as on a Fanic, but it rapid and interpolated moves will decelerate to an exact stop before another block is processed. In exact stop, moves will take a longer time, and continuous cutter motion will not occur. This may cause deeper cutting where the tool stops.
yeah, that doesn't sound good.
So they say that setting your E value to a small value or your 85 can act as if it's an exact stop mode.
If I have my setting 85 as the high setting,
So if you have setting 85 set to a low value, is what it says. It doesn't
oh,
say
as a
where the,
low.
yeah. So like you have yours to 5/10. I don't know if that's low in their book. Like they don't say where the cutoff is, where it'll start acting like that. I sent you the link to the Haas article I'm looking at, by the way, in
Okay.
the chat. Um, but yeah, we'll look into it and definitely update everybody with what we find because I'm sure, like you said, nobody's a perfect machinist. I am sure that you can find even if it's 20 minutes out of your molds, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out with this finishing tool kind of I mean, it's making great finishing and it's like, do I push it? I mean, I've kept this one tool. It's a $65 tool, so it's not like I want to be honestly, there's no reason I should be wearing these out often. I mean, every tool is going to wear out, but I mean, do I even dare push it another inch per minute? Like, it's kind of a scary situation.
Yeah, I mean, you got to ask yourself how much money are you willing to risk is really what it comes down to, I think.
Yeah, to get back potential time.
Yeah, how many tools are you willing to blow up?
Yeah, you don't really hear this one break.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you just 5 hours later you come in and oh, it's broken, great.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's why I was doing that tool breakage detection today that I sent you. It was only on a 16th, which I was fairly sure it was going to be fine, but I was running a 30 thou end mill right after it, and I was like, I think I only have one of these 30 thou end mills, and if the 16th breaks, there's no way I'm going to hear it, and then the 30 thou is going to break, and there's no way I'm going to hear that, and like
Yep.
nothing else went in after that, so it wasn't like a big deal, I guess, but it was still like, I'll figure out how to do this because A, I want to know how to do it, and B, I'll feel way better about everything if I know that it's being checked.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, it
That's
worked
the
out.
main reason I'm jealous of a probe.
Yeah. Well, and like really, it's probing is great, but like the tool setting is the real big thing. Like I cannot believe how much time I've gotten back from tool setting. Like today, I got in and immediately had to set like I don't know 8 or 9 tools, and so I just told it to set tool 2 through 11 and walked away. And like went over to the computer and was continuing to program everything and getting everything dialed for what I wanted to do. And by the time I went back over, it was already done.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and like that's I don't know. It just feels like I'm getting time in my life back with this machine. Like as I don't know, cliche as that sounds, like I feel like I'm getting so much more done. I'm going home at like more reasonable times. Um, so it's just yeah, it feels way better.
That's awesome. That quality of life and just probably making stuff in general has gone up because it's like you got new cool equipment and you can, nerd out and just it's just way more fun.
Yeah, that's already got me thinking like, all right, so got to get this one paid off, and then we got to get another one, and
Yep, next.
but yeah, it's been great for sure.
That's awesome.
So what do you got going on this week? More are these molds for your company, by the way, or are these customer molds?
These are the current ones are for me, but then I've also got like in the queue two for customers, and one of them has a pretty large part order, which I'm kind of like trying to diagnose what's the best plan of attack here because it's like close to 10,000 parts, and it's like, he doesn't want to pay for a production mold, so making a mold, it's like, okay, how many cavities can I get? If I got 10 parts per shot, that's still 1,000 shots. Um, 30 seconds a shot, that's like absolute max. I mean, let's say you could do 3 shots a minute. You just start doing the math. It's just like,
Oof.
oh boy, like that's a lot of time.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, pretty freaking good pay, but it's just like the material that the parts are in is a transparent material. And this is actually a good plug. If anyone knows that's listening, a good source for, I need custom colored ABS pellets, or it can't be colorant. It has to be the actual pellets that's transparent. So, for example, like I can easily get clear ABS, like that's pretty off the shelf, but I need like a transparent red. Like it doesn't have to be a specific red. It's just got to be like when it's injected, clear red ABS, or like for example, orange or yellow. Like the current supplier I know of, I can get that, but I have to go through a color matching process where I actually send like a sample part and they'll actually take it to like a plastic lab and basically reverse engineer the color, whatever, and get me, I think minimum I have to buy 55 pounds of plastic at like $15 a pound. So it's like close to $800, $1,000. And it's just like, that's not feasible. So there's got to be some off the shelf places with some of these custom colors.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it. That's that's a lot of money for sure.
Yeah. So I'm hopefully going to get that one knocked out here. And I don't know. It's funny because both of these are all competitors of mine and they're all making similar products at the same time, which is just total coincidence.
How
and
weird.
and they don't know it, because they're not talking to each other, but they all talk to me, and I obviously sign NDAs and whatnot. So it's just kind of funny to sit in the back seat and just like kind of watch what's going on.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, it's. I guess it's not weird, but it just seems really strange that your competitors are using you to make their products. I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe that's just me, but like it just it seems a little bizarre to me.
I guess it's very rare in the Lego space to find someone like, sure, you could go to anywhere and get some parts injection molded. Like, that's not a problem. But there's a whole like art and finesse of, oh, like, the Lego quote system. Like, the grip tolerance, how big the diameter has to be to fit in the figure's hand. Like, you get and understand that. And it's like, sure, you could just give some dimensions on a print, but it's like, someone like me, like I know it, I've known it, and like I can be picky about it versus someone's like, hey, you asked for eighth of an inch, it's an eighth of an inch, but it's like, no, it doesn't fit right. Like, I think that's kind of what that service added value I'm giving them, really.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
So yeah, I mean, kind of a good comparison be like you could go anywhere and get like a, I don't know, what's an example, like a aluminum can made, but it's like if you go to Coca-Cola, they probably know their stuff better, and if you're Pepsi, you might just go to Coca-Cola, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you said, you understand the market and you understand exactly what goes into it. Like they might spec things out wrong, but you understand kind of intrinsically what they need to have so that it does what they want it to do.
Yep, yep.
Are there anybody? Are any of your competitors also molding things themselves, or are you the only one?
No, there's a couple out there, but the ones that I'm working with, they don't have the capabilities, and they just are so busy with doing other things, and they just don't want to get into it.
Okay,
So, which is,
well, that
I mean, great for
makes you pretty
me.
unique. Yeah, that makes you pretty unique in the space. Then, I mean, that's great.
And the other guys that do molding, they don't really do, they just do it for themselves. They don't really do it for anyone else. So I'm kind of like the one job shop molding guy out there, the only one really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
So,
cool.
yeah, we'll see how the new year is as far as business. I'm kind of wrapping up accounting stuff, and this year just killed it. So I'm hoping next year I got some crazy goals, but I mean, I set some crazy goals this year and was pretty close to hitting them. So I'm going to just keep setting outrageous goals.
That's awesome. Yeah, this year is shaking out pretty good for us as well.
That's awesome.
We've like we've had pretty consistent percentage increase every year, and this year we've done significantly more than that. So it's been pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting this next year, especially with your machine, because it's kind of like we've talked about, like fast forward back a year ago from now, like I just got my machine like November of 2018, and it was really not until the next year, which was 2019 being this year, that I was like comfortable and up and running, and that's what made this year just spike is having that capability, and I guarantee you it's going to be the same with yours, especially when you get that sub plate and all that going next year. It's just going to be like it's going to be a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, so this is a total aside, but kind of a callback to one of our other episodes. We've talked about Harvey and helical and distributorships before.
Oh yeah.
Um, I wish that certain Harvey distributors were also helical because, like, I've talked to no end about how I can't stand my local one. It's really hard to find a good one. The Tool Crib in Arizona, they're a Harvey distributor. I emailed them Friday at 4 p.m. saying I needed certain end mills and got an email back. Like I need them at rush. I need them one overnight shipped. And I got an email back in 6 minutes that he placed the order and they probably could get shipped for a Monday delivery. And they showed up yesterday.
No way.
Yeah. And it's like, see, if like the helical distributor was like that, I would probably have more helical tools in my shop.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, helical, if you're listening.
Yeah, and like if they're hard set on keeping their distributors, just make it universal. If they deal helical or if they deal Harvey, they should be able to do helical and micro 100 and all that because I would happily order through the tool crib all of those. But like it's I could not believe it. Like they've always been really good to me. They're always really quick. Like I could fill out a tool request on their website at like midnight, and the next morning, first thing they call me and they're like, "Hey, here you go. Like, let us know how you want
Wow.
to pay." And so, yeah, I just wanted to give them a shout out. I don't think that any of them listen, but if they do, great. And if anybody in Arizona needs tools like that, the tool crib is fantastic. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of do a little callback there because the distributorship model can work. Like there are people like my guy at Yamazin, like the tool crib, that are fantastic, and they are value added. It's not just one more step to get my tools. So yeah, I wanted to just kind of go back to that.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I think the key is people and distributors realizing that they need added value and they just got to step up and do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I'm going to be paying through them and I'm going to take one more step, they should add something to the whole process. They should make it easy for me. They should be able to track down information that I need really quickly. They should be a support service and network and make it, so that I'm not having to do all the legwork. Like there should be some benefit for me going through them rather than just like, well, I'll go to somebody who I can buy online then.
Yeah. And it's weird because my local distributor sells both Harvey and Helical. That's just weird.
Yeah, yeah, it's bizarre. I think I've emailed the Tool Crib about it before, and like I don't know if they were set up as a distributor of Helical before, or not Helical, Harvey before Helical was brought into the fold, and that's why they aren't. But like, I don't know, one way or the other, it would just be super nice if they did everything.
Yeah. I mean, I know one of my distributors is awesome, like you said. I mean, I can email him and be like, hey, I'm cutting this material. I know I need this type of drill, but do you have any suggestions? And he'll come back to me literally within less than 10 minutes with a bunch of links, and he'll be like, here are the options, here are the prices, let me know what you want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. Like that, I can't, you know, that's exactly what I want from a distributor. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see what it all shakes out. I can only hope that, Helical and Harvey and all them kind of see. I, I I understand them wanting to be loyal to their distributors that help build them as a company, but I think in a lot of cases, and I'm not the only one. Every time they post on Instagram, there's a ton of people that just post the exact same thing, like, "Oh man, I wish I could buy this online. I wish it was easier for me to get your end mills."
Yep.
Like, some of their distributors are just hurting them, and like they either need to drop those people or they need to talk to them and say, "Hey, you guys need to get it together because they need to do a better job about that." So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up there, shall we?
Yeah, I think that was a good episode. And again, thanks to whatever mystery friend sent the hoodies. That's weird and awesome. And I mean, they're not weird. It's just like it feels like such a bizarre thing. Like
Maybe they are weird. We don't know. Probably not, though.
whoever it was, thank you so much. That is so cool. We really appreciate it. And thanks for everybody for listening. Again, we've got Andrew Henry from Henry Holsters on this next week. I think we're maybe going to try to post this early so that you guys have time to put questions. But if not, we'll definitely have a whole bunch of questions for him, and he should have a lot of really good information because he runs a pretty tight ship, it seems like, over there. So thanks everybody. Go to the Within Tolerance podcast Instagram. Make sure that you share us and stuff. Once we get to 1,000 followers, we're going to do t-shirts, stickers, all that kind of stuff. So help us get there, and we'll be able to put that stuff out.
Yeah, and then also I've seen a couple more ratings on like iTunes and whatnot. If you guys are listening, just go ahead, drop us a rating, and preferably one where you can actually like type out a little blurb and just let us know your thoughts and opinion on the podcast. If there's things you want, any improvements, just let us know. That'd be greatly appreciated. And other than that, we'll see you next week.
Yep. Have a good night.